This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm Janet this week, coming to you from Portland, Oregon. Joan is off in Europe adventuring, and we're so happy for her. It's a well-deserved vacation. And I want to wish all of you a happy hello from wherever you might be joining us from and whatever time and space that might be in. Today I'm going to be joined in a few minutes with Danielle Egnew. She was a guest who's a wonderful psychic, musician, actress, and author, and she has a new album out, it sounds like. And we had her as our guest last October before the election. And I thought it would be fun to ask her back to chat about then and now and what else we might be noticing. So Danielle was a gifted intuitive. Well, she's still a gifted intuitive, I guess, and delivers her vast spiritual knowledge in a direct, disarming, and approachable way. She shares her laser-clear observations on what's really going on in the world today on her YouTube channel and her blog, calltothelight.org. Danielle currently anchors her spiritual practice in Billings, Montana, where she lives with her wife and their daughter. She continues to contribute to media abroad. You can find her at Danielle Egnew let me see. I don't know. Danielle You know what? I just screwed that up. Let's just say www.danielleegnew-advisor.com and Facebook at facebook.com Danielle Egnew New Psychic Medium. It's all there somewhere, everybody, and you know how horrible I am with computers. So, hello, Danielle.
Hi, Janet. I think you're doing great, sister. It's so good to talk to you again. Holy moly.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun here. So I'm going to say hello now. Now I'm going to do our announcements, and then you and I will chat, all right?
Outstanding.
So, thank you. Let's see. So our announcements are, we want to give you an invitation to go deeper, to connect with us beyond the show at our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. There you can listen to our podcast of all our past shows. Both Joan and I have our blogs. Joan does hers on Fridays and I do mine on Mondays, where we each comment about what we are noticing in our groups and about life in general. You can also get our schedule for our meetups. Mine take place in Portland, Oregon on Tuesday evenings and Thursday afternoon, and Joan's are around the Puget Sound area of Seattle. She wants me to let you know she'll be in Tacoma Saturday, June 10th, from 3:45 to 5:45 at the Wheelock Library in Proctor, and in Seattle Sunday, June 11th, 2:15 to 4 o'clock at the Queen Anne Library in Seattle, Washington. We also, on that website, you're going to find our information about our sessions. I do close up and personal on phone and Skype, and Joan does her coaching classes. And you can reach us on Facebook, Joan Newcomb, Janet Barrett, and our fan book page, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We also can be reached on Twitter. For the show, it's at Joan and Janet. For me, it's on Twitter at Janet Beyond, and Joan on Twitter at Joan Newcomb. And she'll be sure and tell you. She got lots of great stuff out there. So you can also subscribe to us on YouTube, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And what else do you need to know? Oh, about our free conference call. Okay, every third Thursday of the month, this time it'll be June 15th at 7 p.m. Pacific, we get up close and personal. So this is a large format, the radio show, which we just love. And if you'd like to be more, not quite so one-on-one, but a very small group. We take an hour, we focus on what's going on, we access heart, and we make it easy, and we work on what we notice in life. And so we always have a wonderful time. And you can check out more at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Joan has a new opening in her 12 Weeks to Transformational program, which provides private coaching, consciousness training, and her holding a powerful space for you to completely change your life. And so you can completely change your life. At any moment, you can completely change your life. But spending time with Joan will really do it for you. And we want to let you know about a special announcement. If you're in the Seattle area, something coming up is Inviting the Stranger. It's an event sponsored by the Spiritual Directors International. Saturday, June 3rd, 1 to 5 p.m., presented by the Seattle First Baptist Church on Harvard Avenue in Seattle. This is a free event. It's going to feature a panel of leaders in different spiritual practices and breakout groups to explore practical ways to be and how to be more welcoming and engaging with each other during these tumultuous times. You can RSVP or ask any questions and just email events@sdiworld.org by June 1st if possible. We all want to support events where we're learning to talk to each other and hearing our differences, but really hearing our similarities. So I'd suggest you go and enjoy yourself. So, Danielle, you still there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Some shape or another, huh? I wanted to catch up.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I wanted to catch up on what you had noticed in October before the election, and then what you're noticing now, and then everything else in between. I thought we'd take this time. What do you notice? What sticks out to you?
Oh, my God. Well,
geez,
where to start? It's been such a subtle time frame, Janet. Just so terribly subtle. I say with so much sarcasm that it's eking out all over every pore of my body. You know what's fascinating about this time frame is that way back a year ago in May, I put out a video that went viral that talked about not only who I thought would win the presidential election, yet the bulk of the video, which was 9 minutes long, talked about the time frame that we were entering into. And that time frame talked about the dying of the imbalanced masculine. Now, note I'm saying imbalanced because there's a lot of awesomeness in the balanced masculine.
Right.
That there is a dying off of the imbalanced masculine as we come into this feminine time frame fully, which we actually came into in 2012. And because we're talking about a 100,000-year cycle here, the shadow period, unlike Mercury retrograde, which lasts approximately a week, is more like a few years,
Yeah.
So we're right? And so we're squarely in the feminine time frame right now. And you're asking, what have I noticed about this time frame? One of the most pronounced, just flying off the table like a poltergeist throwing a spoon type of activity that I've noticed is that the imbalanced masculine is not only in its death throes, it is literally just died and just that twitching carp that is on the dock that you pull up and you try to return and it won't go back to the water and it just dies. That's what we're looking at. We are looking at so much imbalance of a system of oppression, bullying, tyranny, that it's not just simply the United States, it's the world. This system no longer works in the world. We are a globally connected people. We are in a time frame, Janet, that is unlike any other time frame in the history of human beings, because previously we didn't have things like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, Snapchat that connect the world, YouTube.
Yeah.
So we have a consciousness sharing opportunity here that is unlike any other time to Bluetooth together in the world. And that is actually causing an accelerated ascension time frame, which is exactly where we're right on schedule for that. And I was talking about that a year ago in May. So here we're sitting with this last attempt at acquisition. And this is I got to be real careful how I say this for about 50,000 different reasons. Yet we are sitting at the last time frame of pushy acquisition, where I can shove you out of the way as the bully and take what I want. What we're seeing right now is that doesn't work across the board.
Well, I think Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, what keeps catching me when you said this, wounded male, was it's the imbalanced male within the feminine and how we all hold this. And that's what's so exciting about all this. This isn't about picking on anyone. This is about our own, all the information that's inside us, and how what we've created is this perfect way to look at this stuff that has been hidden or has been buried and has been festering and fostering for the last, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, however long we are, right? And that's what's really neat about all this. So,
well, I would absolutely agree. What a wonderful way to put that. That is absolutely true. Every human being has within them masculine and feminine energies. Everybody does. Yeah. And so to create one or the other in an imbalance, as per obviously seeing a lot of, the bullying, the blustering, and I want to throw a couple examples out there for you on this. We're seeing.
Well, how about we go to our commercial break here before we get into this?
That sounds like a great idea. Yeah, my God. You need to take a breather, girl, for sure. So we're going to stop to take a commercial break, but stay tuned as we're chatting with Danielle Egnew in a state of grace.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you're dealing with? Janet Barrett is a subtle energy empath. Feeling the energies present in your myths and language, she offers a supportive, non-judgmental viewpoint. Experience new ways to relate to and release the energies in those stories. Receive a $25 discount on your first session. Email Janet for an appointment at janetb@janetandbeyond.com. Come explore with Janet. New possibilities for a joy-filled life.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
Are you ready to take a quantum leap in your life? Joan Newcomb is a conscious mastery coach who empowers you to navigate life from your own inner wisdom using energy techniques. Contact her through her website, joan-newcomb.com, and take conscious mastery of your life today. That's joan-newcomb.com.
And I want to welcome everyone back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And I'm Janet, your host this week. Joan's off and enjoying life outside the U.S. boundaries. And I'm here talking with Danielle Egnew. So, Danielle, we're going to get into a lot because I can tell it's already there. How about we access heart-centered awareness to get and have our conversation from there? Would that be all right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm all with you.
All right. So, everyone, we want to just take a few minutes because you can see that the conversation's intense. There's a lot of power. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of vitality in what Danielle is articulating for us. So, let's look and see to be in the best place to hear this. And so we look to bring to you, the listener, each week, heart-centered awareness as you listen to the show. And this is a space about reframing, where there is no judgment, there is no story, there's only potential and resonances and patterns. And in this state, our sharing is subject to shift in the moment. You can notice those changes as you listen in, as you develop your own awareness. Today, Danielle and I will be busy articulating what we notice up in the field of unified consciousness. And so some of you may be new to this, some of you are not. But we're always in heart-centered awareness, whether we are aware of it or recognize it. And so you don't have to go anyplace. It's all within. So let's just take a few minutes here and settle in. A breath. A breath is a very nice place to start. And let's see what we notice. There's a lot of head energy going on. I can feel that already. So everybody, just bring your awareness to your physical heart. Start there. That's right. And be in appreciation and gratitude for it. That heart beat, it is you alive. So embrace it. Whatever condition it might be in, just love it. There we go. And then our second terrain of the meaning of heart is emotional terrain. And we all have emotions, and a lot of them are up and running always in us. So we just want to acknowledge from a neutral place. So just notice that you have them. Some of us like them, some of us don't. It doesn't really matter. You have them. And so get over it and just allow yourself to relax. Whatever is up and running, just, there you go. There it goes. There it softens. And that takes us to the core essence of all, the field of unified consciousness, third meaning of heart, where you and I are one, where we are bits of light, photons, and bits of biomass. We're frequencies, vibrations, and resonances. And we're our stories. And our stories are just information of the patterns of how all that fits together. And so just allow that to loosen, to be present. This is what being present is about. There we go. And as you breathe, you notice that you're in a deeper, quieter place. That's sacred. And this is where you and I are one. Where Danielle is one with us, where Joan in Europe, and anyone you know is connected to you. And this is the power that's awakening for all of us. And that's what today's show will be about. How to notice in the infinity of potential of right now, and being present, not in your story, not thinking about the future, but right now. And notice that deepening, softening state. Oh, that feels better. How you doing, Danielle?
I'm so mellow, girl. I'm ready to go lay in the sun and take a nap. That was awesome. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, what was I even talking about? I don't even know. That was fabulous. Lord.
Okay. Well, thank you. So, in the imbalance that we're noticing showing up, and that really becomes imbalance feminine too, wouldn't you say? Because if you got, since we're both, right? And the feminine is dealing with that imbalance. Right?
It really, if you really, I mean, we're having to look at some truths, which everybody loves to say are subjective, but we're having to look at some energies that we have truly captivated and we have encultured. And the energies that we're looking at this time frame is that even in the feminine was developing under the masculine time frame. So even if you look back to women's lib in 1970s, it was a very masculine way to assert the femininity because it was coming out in the tail end of the feminine. So there's a lot of women that aren't even exactly sure how to fully embrace that inner power mama bear that's intense. And so what you've got also is you've got these gentlemen, not all gentlemen, obviously, yet we've got many gentlemen who have been enculturated in the very end of that 20th century, which was a very imbalanced time frame for masculinity in terms of, because we were getting ready to switch over to the feminine time frame. So a lot of gentlemen at this time are working not to embrace their inner femininity. It's not that. How to wrap the masculinity around the power of the mama bear. And when you combine those two things, it is very powerful because the feminine time frame is about uplifting all. It is about healing and nurturance for all, not just the strongest ram on the side of the mountain that can butt the other ram down. That is a masculine attribute. So when you take these leaders that are male, and you empower the inner mama bear within the masculine really drive to protect, then what you've got is a really powerful entity. Now, what we're seeing is a lot of gentlemen who have never been acquainted with their inner mama bear and have only been taught about the head-butting ram. And so we're seeing that modality just fall apart all over the place. We're seeing it in our national government. That trying to just butt your way through is not necessarily going to net you the results you really wish to come together on. It's about coming together as a whole. And I think that's going to be an interesting modality for certain people.
Well, I think what comes to mind for me in your conversation is that in the victim mode, there is always the abuser and the victim. And what's coming undone is this, is where this has been stuck together. So if you have felt victimized, you have the impression of the abuser. If you're the abuser, you have the energy of the victim on you. And what happens is all gets stuck together. And then you get generations and you get layers and you get civilizations on that. And so that's kind of this nutshell we're getting to the nut of that's cracking open. And I think it is that deep in consciousness. It is that deep in civilization, this old imbalance that we've had. And so to take off that label, and we, as consciousness, we understand we create. So we're our own responsible creatures. And that's what's exciting about now, and I have to say, I'm very fortunate. I lead a men's group. I'm the only female in the group. And that's kind of nice.
Yeah, girl,
because I offer that feminine, non-judgmental state that most of these men have not ever had. And, and for them, they feel just as wounded, right? Whether they have had done something to them or others. And it's just been a delight to help be in that state where we all just we're going to stop it here and within each of us. And that's exciting.
Well, that's exactly it, is that this is a time frame of ascension. And what that means is not certain people ascend or only the holy people ascend. Boy, that touched my hide in my metaphysical world. All these folks out there probably well-intentioned, yet just giving this message that there are young souls and old souls, and the young souls are ruining everything, and the old souls are just enduring. Again, victim and abuser. Yeah. And the bottom line is we are all co-creating this experience. And from my perspective, all data is relevant. All data is knowledge. And when we look at this whole entire picture, we're getting the opportunity to not only see where we have been developing as a species to the point where we did need that masculine push starting out our civilization. Let's build some roads. Let's get the population going. Let's establish perimeters and boundaries, and that makes sense for that time frame. Yet now in the feminine time frame, what are we going to do, Janet? Are we going to conquer the bottom of the ocean now? I mean, we've pretty much run out of stuff to conquer. So this is about the actual nurturance and upholding of all that we have built. That includes ourselves, gang. That includes ourselves. And as you just very intuitively put out there, that you work with this men's group, and a lot of fellas have not been shown how to love the self outside of external applications of the self. Where's your big house to show your wife you love her? Where's your fancy car to show you're successful? And in turn, ladies, we have not loved ourselves either, because we have put so much, again, on that external attribute. Am I skinny enough? Am I young enough? Am I, a good enough mom? How about just being the best person you can possibly be and bringing that into this time frame to let the feminine then nurture all? So this, when you talk, that to me is so prominent in this time frame.
We hear so much labeling. There is so much labeling, and we don't understand how much energy that capsulates. Language is being what it is, and what you put out there, and what you described so well, where I heard lots of labels, right?
Yes,
Men have to carry the burden, and women have to nurture, and that's a pile of hooey. We each have them within us. So there's a part of me that can carry that burden like my husband does. And he has a little more shoulder muscle, and I have a little more hip muscle. And when you put the two together, things move really well, right? So we're trapped in in our language. And this is something that's a particular peeve to me, is how you get charged. The energy gets stuck and you don't hear what you're saying and you don't understand that you keep reinforcing separation as opposed to community in your language.
Oh my gosh! And then you look at our media, which technically we're media today, but we look at our more, old school NBC, ABC, CNN kind of media, which is devised around a system of polarization in order to, originally it was devised around an attempt to bring a clearer message, yet it became very, very obvious that doing this gets people into a team mentality, my team versus your team. And once people are fighting on a team, because we are mammals, we are tribal mammals, we are herd animals, once we get associated with a team and we take on the identity of the team, it's actually from a sociological perspective, if you're somebody who's not in alignment with the wellness of the whole and wishes to try to exert the ideal of control, then it's easier to control people. If I'm busy fighting with somebody else on an ideal, we're not treating each other as individuals. This time frame ascension, Janet, is deeply rooted in breaking away from the old world. The angels call it the return to the original world or the original incarnation. Okay. Right. And so we're getting back to how it was supposed to be, if you will, and supposed to be, obviously, you guys, that's kind of a ridiculous way to say it. But really, I mean, there was a design. Nature has a design. And we're getting back, not to say that there's a natural design with the application of masculine and feminine. It's not about that. It's just about when we've created these polarized teams, and whether that is Christian, non-Christian, Republican, Democrat, Wiccan or Hindu, whatever, if we get into these team environments with our heads, we are missing the point that humanity's greatest strength is in Bluetoothing together. Humanity's greatest strength is our individualized perspectives and differences as factored together for the whole. And this is what we're having to deal with right now. And boy, Hattie girl, it is blowing up like a powder keg because there's so much fear. Don't you find, Janet, that there's a ton of fear around folks who have made their entire identity one type of team or another? There's a lot of fear of the loss of personal identity in my observation here.
Well, I think I would agree. I see that all the time. We come to these labels of identity many different ways, right? And some are cultural, some are global, some are, whatever the conversation might be in the frame of reference that you're using. And people work off assumptions. And that's the challenge when you're in a mindset, you're working off a state of assumptions. And what we're finding is that, instead of the Lord of the Flies approach, which is what you described so clearly to me, is that, and it's like, okay, the sense is that consciousness says, well, let's see what this does. And so there's not an attachment in that. And it can be an act of love if you're going to go with that label on it. It's just, well, let's see. There's just no attachment. Let's see what happens. And, I think sometimes you can be busy looking somewhere else and something else is happening behind you. And there's nothing to say that consciousness can't be distracted, and you go, all right, well, this is where we are. So here we are. And if we stop blaming, and if we stop separation issues, and if we stop a lot of the run amok reactionary work that's going on, that you could stop, be in this state. This is why we're doing this from a conscious sense of heart-centered awareness, where we are all one. So stop the games, stop the labels, we are all one. That's the bottom line. We are individuals sharing in a collective experience called consciousness. Now, that means you have as equal value as I do. And you can just feel that. And audience, I want you to notice that when we say that, because both Danielle and I feel that. Just notice what happens when you stop the stories.
What's so powerful about that, love, is, and I'm not meaning to cut in on your meditative time. I just, I got this off the old ethereal ticker tape here.
Oh, I got shivers running down me, so we're doing good. Yeah.
Right on. No, it just came in that we're like children. We're like little kids that are learning a new culture. Right. And the most exciting thing there is if we resort to that inner being, that inner little kid within us. Not to be dismissive of the adult that has endured difficult things or can rationalize, yet to resort to that child within, what we have the opportunity to feel is the newness of this time frame. Geez, Janet, you remember when you were a kid and you would meet new friends before the hormones kicked in and we learned the insecurities of puberty? We were excited to meet other little kids. It was like, hi, what is your name? What do you do? You have toys? I have toys. Here, I'll share mine with you. Let's get together and do something cool. That is actually the innate operating system of human beings. We must be taught to pick a team. We must be taught to wear an identity. We must be molded into fear. Our natural space is to love.
You have to be taught to hate, right? In the classic.
Yes, you do.
You have to be taught to hate, right?
So with all of this wrapping around and this consciousness, what I found in my work specifically, because I believe that we're all called to different areas with our particular gifts and talents. Everybody listening, gang, every one of you has a spiritual gift and talent that is called for in this time frame. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So just remember that, whether it's loving on people, whether it's whatever it is. In my work, I do a lot of work. I call it bridge work, because I deal a lot with folks who are so enculturated into the labels and the world and thinking that that part of the matrix is actually all there is, into the consciousness that you are so nailing today, Janet, and hallelujah and high five to you. Because yes, this is the point of the ascension. And there are so many that are looking for tools to go from A to B, or don't even understand the original operating system of this plane, which was ultimate connection. So I love the fact that you bring that forward so much, love.
There's so much, okay, what's a good way to put this? There's so much unclarity, but people don't see it because it's unclear, right? And that's the nature of the beast. There is so much that we each are, because we are at 2000, whatever the year is, and we are the genetic, those genetics are working inside of us. And anything that's working inside of us has memory to it. It has energy to it. It has consciousness to it. Has emotions to it. And we right now, what is happening is that's all coming undone. All that encoding of that DNA and all that mush. And I think most people don't hold awareness of that. They just feel something. They feel upset. They feel weird. They feel, I don't like you. I'm in fear, because they don't recognize themselves. And that's what they most fear, is they don't recognize themselves. And we have to stop that and help them to understand that that's perfect place to be. Now, get out of your reaction to it and just embrace it and call it what it is. And it's your own fear about your own being. And that person over there is just allowing you to get a sense of it. And it's not about them.
I love that.
It's about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
No, it isn't about them. And you think about how much time we have been taught. I like to call it, the team aspect, to rile folks up and get them going, to actually come out of that and say, well, wait a minute. If I was taught or trained, and I come from a very traditional Christian background, obviously I'm very outside the box at this time. I am a pastor, yet a very outside of the box pastor at the Unity Church here in Billings. Unity is an outside the box denomination with a lot of metaphysics woven into spirituality rather than religion. Yet, when we look at that, I see these people they know that this, like you called it so beautifully, this genetic mush in our DNA that's trying to aggregate itself into something that resonates more properly and, if you will, more applicably in this time frame, people are struggling with that because they're sitting here going, well, wait a minute, does that mean, in plain terms, does that mean I'm not being a good Christian if I love a Muslim person? Does that mean that am I turning my back on God because that's what I was trained? And this time frame melts away all of that, as you put it, old encoded stuff that probably served a purpose back in the day, to get civilization rolling. Maybe it didn't. Who knows? I think everything's usable myself. So all of these time frames, right? Everything now that we're in, as Janet put it, gang, I'm going to back you up on this, Janet. I just love you. You're just so amazing, and I love your perspective. I want to lay in the warm campfire known as Janet and just roast marshmallows. That's how puffy you make me feel. For people listening that may not quite get their brain around some of the concepts, hopefully you are, yet the point of all of this, the point that she's making, just to reframe it, is to say that we are not the sum total of our belief systems. We create those belief systems. Right. And so for us to be able to go, let's create a new belief system called love everybody, and let's see what that does. Because that also means we love ourselves in all aspects, and that's hard for people.
When you use the word belief, and I think a lot of people aren't even clear what that is, right?
I would agree, yes.
It's, I think, I don't have the definition right in front of me. Joan would. She's so good at tasking things all at the same time. But belief to me, the difference between belief and being, and I don't have to believe in anything and I can still be. And I think this is the new reframing, part of the new reframing for people.
Yes.
Is if you believe something, that's something generated. And it could be from your own or it could be from outside. And I want to be. I know, and I'm not going to pick on any particular religious dogmas here, because all have a place and a space.
Sure.
We are told things at a very young age. We don't often question because you're just taking information in, right? And at some point it starts to kick back and you start to question. And or you don't. You can question or you don't. But that's the way the human being evolves. When you're in an embryo stage to a fetus stage, the only reason you keep developing is because something stopped and something else started. And so there you go. Took in information and then a choice appeared and you either went with it or you didn't. And something happened as a result. And I think people are not necessarily trained to question without it being painful, right? And there's some feedback that comes back that says, nah, we're not going to do that. So we just learn to take it on. And so all of a sudden we are a collection of beliefs, but it's not our truth.
Yeah,
and I think there's a difference in that.
That's a brilliant way to put that. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm sorry, keep going. That's fabulous.
So it's all subjective and it's all experiential and it's all about being and what do you want to be? And I choose to believe in something because I am that. And when you reverse this, instead of being something because of what you believe, no, I am first and then I pick up the thought. So, I think it's just different ways of navigating, and it's also exciting. So what would you say is, well, compared to where we were in October, how are we doing?
Well, we're right on schedule, girl.
Okay.
we are right on schedule.
Hear that, everybody? We're right on schedule.
we actually are on schedule, without getting into some more real world dynamics, which I'll just leave off for our particular conversation here. We're right on schedule with one of the things I talked about a year ago was the fact that no matter who won this election, that it was going to be the feminine time frame, and we were going to have to take transition, growth, and healing of our country into our own hands. that it would not happen from the top. It would happen from the body, because that is the body of people, we the people, because that is actually what the feminine time frame is about, you know, really getting everybody on board with their own healing potential and self-forgiveness potential. So we're right on schedule in terms of the fact that, and let me back up just a little bit, what I like to call the old world mentalities of, well, we're just going to reach in there and grab in the cookie jar and, you know, steal as many as we can for another day. That doesn't really work, because what we're seeing in the feminine time frame is that, again, imbalanced acquisition has no application in this energy. I want you guys to think about a computer code, okay? If you all of a sudden have if you have a computer that has an old computer with Windows XP, and all of a sudden you get a computer with Windows 10 on it, then Windows 10 is just not going to run a lot of those programs from XP. It's not because Windows 10 judges XP. It's not because it thinks it's better than XP. Its code is different. So the code of this time frame, then it just does not support, you know, stealing in order to prove dominance. There's no code for that. So then the program falls apart in the new operating system. And when we see somebody reach in and grab something that was not intended for them in this time frame, it's going to fall apart immediately because the code doesn't support it. Now, that is not a political statement, Janet. That is, and I'm pretty sure you're darn aware of that. That's a statement on the dynamics of the time frame we're in. So what's different from October is that we are squarely in a time frame that does not support, again, any sort of bullying, any sort of acquisition that is not yours. Taking something and expecting it to fly isn't going to work. It's going to get returned to its original operating system. We're seeing that play out in the most popular mirror, and I like to call it a mirror for the stage of growth we are in as a society. We like to call that politics. Yet it's simply a mirror of what we create or what we feel is happening. And actually, it's not even the greater we. We're turning it into the greater we. So what's different now is that we are having the opportunity to actually watch what happens when we no longer factor in the we and we focus on the I. And to brilliantly, to point to your brilliance, Janet, you brilliantly put forward that believe and being are different. And the angels that I interface with all the time talk about what people are, not who they are. Because who we are is like belief. It's going to change like an outfit.
Right,
but
that's
what
identity.
We are is the base.
Right.
Exactly, right? And our base design, which is exactly what you're talking about here, being is what we are, acknowledging what we are, and then allowing our outer world to reflect that. And we're going to see big changes in a lot of what I like to call the old sociopathic 20th century business system, which was there for a reason. Right. But it's dead, honey. It's dead and gone. It's tapping the mat. It's like I cannot sustain myself. I'm XP trying to run in Windows 10 here. I can't do it. And that's what we're seeing. And so if people watch the news, don't get disheartened. There's going to be a lot more of weirdness. There's going to be a lot more of that coming in because the code no longer runs. So instead of being fear-based, perhaps a suggestion for folks would be to step up and you can feel that code that's trying to run in you. That's love and connection and the good of all and the good of the many and forgiveness executed towards the people that are so fearful that they cannot let go of this old code. How about it doesn't mean we have to condone, that's different, but how about having some empathy for somebody, for all these old computers that are choking and dying on the vine? A little empathy. We don't have to accept it. Just some empathy would be good.
Yeah. Caress it gently. I love your analogy of the computers and how the different systems work, right? And what I'm caught with is our connection, our emotional attachment to these different systems. And that's where the hook is. That's where the hook is. And so if we can love the old as much as we love the new, and one is not better than the other. What it is, it's an evolutionary process. And the older was appropriate in the time that it was created and where things were, where consciousness was standing. The new is also in that same scenario. And so you don't discard one for the other because it's not work, it's not good, blah, blah, blah. And you hear all the identity and you hear all the judgments there. It is a different time frame. And that's what you're so well articulating, is that the upgraded system, and even that has language power to it. When I say upgraded, that says what was is not necessarily good. And that is a bad word to use. So the new system, and so this is what catches me all the time. So how we are always putting something wrong, putting something down, debilitating, removing the essence and the joy that was in that at the time it was there, and coloring it with all this other judgment that now is about. And I see that a lot in social media here, when everything is not about integrity, when it is just surface petty stuff that is just running on that emotion. And you go, just a minute. You just devalued a whole group of people. You just did that to yourself. You made yourself bad. And for me personally, it's about getting rid of the need to be bad. So I look at
and
things.
that's, and that's, you point right back to the team, the go-go team, my side versus your side, that we've been formed so deeply around good and bad or wrong or right. You want to know a real mind twister here, Janet, is that these angels bring to me all the time, when I speak with them about different issues, the idea of, and this blows people's minds because we have no reference to this consciousness, the idea of morality is more of a human construct that is put in place as a series of handrails in our evolution of a consciousness, a spirit, and a society. And it's not, I'll have clients ask me all the time, well, I did X, Y, Z. Do my angels think I'm immoral? They don't even hardly know what the word means. They look at me, they're like, is that thing you guys do to each other to determine where you're at on your growth scale? Because we don't even get that. So, and obviously, and it's weird. It's weird from the universal perspective. All is valid. And that's hard. That's hard for people to hear when we have leaders that we may not agree with. We see horrible things on the news, to say, well, how can all be valid? Yet, as you put it, Lev, we are going, that's what the feminine time frame is about, is taking the judgment out of it and just being able to say, gosh, that's just not functional, period. It's not personal. It's just not functional at this time frame.
It's how is it useful when you do matrix energetic? Richard was always saying, well, how is this useful? And you really, it was a great gift in spending time with him on that. And how is it useful? That's coming from that neutral positioning and how to look at who we each are and go, oh, okay. And the acceptance that that's how you've been showing up. And what if there was no judgment on it? And that's what we so are looking to extend to people, is the reality that the only one who's doing that is you ultimately.
Well, and also, yes, I 100% agree with you, girl. And then I love it. How is it useful? And so back to your original question of what's different between now and October, we are seeing that human beings are the only species that I've encountered in all of the galactic off-worlders that I get an opportunity to visit with, of all the angelic life, of all the elementals, all the beings that Creator put out. Not that I've talked to all of them, but I've had the opportunity to visit with many of them. And human beings are the only species I personally have encountered at this time frame that learns through contrast. We're like a 2-year-old, don't put your hand on the burner. Ow, it hurts, So as we learn through contrast, I would say that our time frame, how is it useful? We're seeing very polarized behaviors that do not function in the current code. So as we see that they do not inspire a forward function, that's useful in going, okay, well, geez, we probably should look up the new code or figured out or, downloaded a spiritual app for this one because we got to move in a direction.
We got some stuff to work on. All right. Yes. Well, I think we better take our commercial break here. And stay tuned, everyone, as we're talking with Danielle Egnew. And it's all from within a state of grace. So just notice.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you're dealing with? Janet Barrett is a subtle energy empath. Feeling the energies present in your myths and language, she offers a supportive, non-judgmental viewpoint. Experience new ways to relate to and release the energies in those stories. Receive a $25 discount on your first session. Email Janet for an appointment at janetb@janetandbeyond.com. Come explore with Janet. New possibilities for a joy-filled life.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
Are you ready to take a quantum leap in your life? Joan Newcomb is a conscious mastery coach who empowers you to navigate life from your own inner wisdom using energy techniques. Contact her through her website, joan-newcomb.com, and take conscious mastery of your life today. That's joan-newcomb.com.
And I want to welcome you back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm Janet, and my guest is Danielle Egnew, and she has been exploding with information for us about all the different contrasts that humans like to embrace in being. And so we got just a few minutes here, Danielle. What do you think you want to share with people? And be sure and tell us about your music you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, what I'd like to tell folks is I have, if I were to, speak English properly, I am a Montanan. I got a Twitter account. And I do a lot of visiting with people on Twitter about current events, almost more so than Facebook, just simply because Twitter limits you to 140 characters. So it's very difficult. Do you see where I'm going with this one here, Janet?
Yeah. We both have the same issue.
Yeah. So people can't go on there just paragraph rants because I don't feel that having a place to host that type of negativity is not what my calling is. What I've been doing is discussing things. People ask me world events, whatnot. Follow me on Twitter. It's at Danielle Egnew, EGNEW. And we do all kinds of analyzing of world situations, how it fits into the feminine time frame, and what's really going on behind the scenes spiritually as well as emotionally with a lot of what we're seeing. I am still on Facebook, of course, and I do a lot of visiting there. I've just dialed it back just a touch on Facebook because the negativity got to be a little ridiculous for me. Mm-hmm. So, I'm still there. We're still talking about all kinds of stuff. Yet a lot more of the conversations are going on over on Twitter. Of course, on my blog, calltolight.org. I'm a little behind on my blog, Janet, as I was mentioning before we started our wonderful show today, because I've been recording my album. And for those that may not be aware, before I came out of the closet as a psychic and a channel and a medium, I am, or was back then, a musician. My job was rock star. That's what I did for a job and was signed to record labels and all of that. So I still do a lot of music, and my new album that's released June 2nd is called You've Got to Go Back the Way That You Came. And on this album, right? And on this album, I am so proud of this, Janet, because I have written some material. This album has been 3 years in the making.
Wow.
And it's been just a labor of love and a journey. And there are 10 songs. One particular song we're going to be releasing a video to. Actually, we did release the video to it now that I'm thinking about it, called Go Be Love. And it's all about this time frame. There's another song called Temperance that's all about this time frame. So I would really encourage people to go check the music out. And you can check that out at Reverb Nation. Just type in Danielle Egnew and my artist page will come up. You can also hit up my website at danielleegnew-advisor.com. And very soon here, that's also on CD Baby, iTunes, all of that good stuff. I'm really proud, Janet, of the message of this album, which is getting back to who and what we are. And I'm literally like, I'm tearing up. I'm so excited about the songs that were delivered through me for this, because I really feel as an artist, our material comes through us. So that's just been incredibly, what a gift to be able to deliver this. And of course, you know, the CD release party on June 2nd here in Billings, Montana, full band, got a bunch of wonderful people playing with me, clarinet, banjo, bass, guitar, percussion. I mean, it's going to be a phenomenal experience.
Danielle, thank you. Thank you so very much. It's always a delight to be with you and those that you connect with, because you can really feel it. Very
thank you,
yeah.
Honey, thank you for all of your work, too. Thank you so much for having me on. You're just brilliant.
Oh, thank you, dear. And everyone, we want to say goodbye and thank you to Danielle for joining us today. And we'll look forward to having you another time. All right, dear?
Sounds great, sister.
Okay. Have fun out there. All right, everyone. So here's an invitation to go deeper with us, to connect beyond the show at our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. You can listen to our podcast of all these great shows, including today's. We'll be looking forward to that. You'll find information about both Joan and I's blogs, where we write about what's going on in the world and in groups, and with what Danielle was talking about, we deal with it up close and personal and what we're all feeling here. And let's see, she's got meetups coming up in Tacoma, Saturday, June 10th, 3:45 to 5:45 at the Wheelock Library in Tacoma. And her other meetup is in Seattle, Sunday, June 11th, 2:15 to 4 o'clock at the Queen Anne Library in Seattle. We also do private sessions that you can read about there, and do all this work. Joan's got her personal coaching sessions that she offers, and I love talking to people one-on-one. And reframing, help you to reframe what you're experiencing into new ways and take the energy out of it and make it something useful. So you can reach our show on Facebook. Joan Newcomb, Janet Barrett, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet are some addresses. You can reach us on Twitter at Joan and Janet for the show. I'm at Twitter at Janet Beyond, and Joan's on Twitter at Joan Newcomb. Sorry about that. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and see all the different things we're doing there. And don't forget our free conference call coming up on June 15th at 7 p.m. Pacific, where we get one-on-one and in a small group. And they're profound sessions. So if you, wherever you are in the world, you can join us at that time. We'd love to have you join us. And Joan has a new opening in her 12 Weeks to Transformation. It's private coaching, consciousness training, and she's holding a powerful state for you to completely change your life. So contact her about that. We love hearing from you always. So you can email us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. And I just want to thank all of you and our special guest, Danielle Egnew. She's always got so many different things going on. She's so well connected out there in the world. So be sure and find out more about her at her websites. And she has a couple of them, www.danielleegnew-advisor.com, and on Facebook, psychicmedium.com, DanielleEgnew.psychicmedium. And she's always up. She has a great blog that she writes also every couple of weeks. So I heartily recommend that. And we wish her the very best with her new album. So let's see here. We're just coming up on time, it looks like. And I want to thank you all. You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Janet Barrett, this week. And as you're listening to this, remember there is no time or space in consciousness. So whenever you are listening, you are co-creating with us. I thank you all for joining us as Consciousness Expressing and Consciousness Evolving. Goodbye.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.